Okay, so let's unpack this. Imagine you're assessing an adult patient, someone who needs care and support,
Mm,
and you notice something. Faint, subtle fingertip bruising on their upper arm. It's a gate. It's a definite red
a
flag.
classic red flag for non-accidental injury, yes.
But here's the kicker. Their partner is right there, hovering, and they're insisting on answering every single question. You can't get a private word in.
They're blocking the conversation.
Exactly. And the patient, they won't even meet your eye. They just say they're clumsy and deny needing any help. So you have this strong suspicion of abuse, but the patient denies it. What do you do first? What's your immediate move in that high-pressure moment?
That scenario, I mean, that really captures the essential tension we see in modern professional practice. So welcome to a deep dive into safeguarding adults at risk. We're going to be focusing on the absolutely critical legal and ethical framework.
Right, the stuff that comes from the UK's CARE Act 2014 and, of course, the GMC guidance. And our mission today is not just about reviewing the law, is it? It's about giving you a framework, a really robust one for making those rapid decisions.
Yes. We're distilling the foundational legal and ethical framework you really need. We're trying to extract the central truth, which is how to balance protection. Making someone safe with empowerment.
It's a tightrope walk.
It is. It's making sure your actions are proportionate, they're lawful, and that they are absolutely centered on the adult's wishes and their right to autonomy.
So let's start with that foundation. What are we actually defining as safeguarding?
Well, at its heart, safeguarding is about protecting a person's right to live in safety, free from abuse or neglect. But it's also about actively promoting their well-being and their autonomy.
So it's not just about stepping in, it's also prevention.
Prevention and empowerment, absolutely.
And the legal anchor for all this in England is the CARE Act 2014. If you're a clinician, you just have to know what triggers that mandatory duty to act.
You do. The CARE Act puts a mandatory duty on local authorities to make or cause to be made inquiries when some very specific criteria are met. This is what's known as triggering a Section 42 inquiry.
And our role as clinicians is often being that trigger point, recognizing when you have to consult.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's really drill down on those three crucial conditions, the ones that have to be met to trigger that Section 42 duty.
Right. And all three have to coexist. First, the person must be an adult, so 18 or over, who has care and support needs. That's your entry point.
Okay, that's number one.
Second, they must be experiencing or at risk of abuse or neglect.
Right.
And third, and this is the bit that's so often misunderstood, they have to be unable to protect themselves because of those specific care and support needs.
The third point feels vital. It's where I think a lot of people get stuck in these scenarios. It's not just about vulnerability, is it? It's about causality.
That is the key distinction, yes.
Yeah.
If an adult with no care and support needs is harmed, that's a police matter. It's not a Section 42 safeguarding duty. But if, say, they rely on their abuser for physical care, or maybe a cognitive impairment linked to their needs stops them from understanding risk, then the duty is triggered. It connects their vulnerability directly to the care infrastructure.
So the moment you tick those three boxes, you've moved from just managing risk to activating a legal duty for an inquiry, even if the patient is reluctant.
Precisely. If those three criteria are met, the local authority has a legal duty to step in and decide what action is needed. Your clinical duty is to recognize that threshold and make the referral.
So if we boil this all down to one central truth for decision-making, it would be this. Make safe first, center the person, share the minimum necessary lawfully, and record clearly with a Section 42 mindset.
I like that. And you mentioned center the person there. That phrase, it's the entire foundation for modern UK safeguarding. It's called making safeguarding personal, or MSP.
And MSP is so important in these scenarios. It demands a person-led, outcome-focused response. It completely shifts the conversation. Instead of us saying, right, we're putting a care package in place, the question has to be,
What does safe mean to you?
exactly, what outcomes are you looking for? You work towards their preferred outcomes.
And to make sure that philosophy actually works in practice, we rely on the 6 guiding principles of adult safeguarding. These come straight from the CARE Act guidance. If you know these, you know the ethical rules of the road.
Let's touch on the two that often create the most conflict. Let's start with empowerment.
Empowerment is all about supporting the person to make their own decisions, giving them control. So in our opening scenario, the patient denies abuse. That is a massive test of the empowerment principle.
How do you respect that denial while also dealing with the physical evidence you're seeing?
Well, that's where the counterbalancing principle of protection comes in, providing support for those in greatest need. But both of those have to be tempered by proportionality.
The least intrusive response appropriate to the risk.
Exactly. If the bruising is mild and the person has full capacity, proportionality would suggest a less invasive approach than if they were, say, seriously injured.
It's so much easier to list these rules than it is to apply them in the room when you see that fear.
It is. And that's why the framework exists, to take the emotional pressure off the decision. The other principles are prevention, partnership, so working with police, housing, and so on, and finally, accountability.
Transparency in everything you do.
Yes.
And the link between MSP and capacity is, well, it's paramount here. If we're centering the person, we have to know if they have the capacity to make that decision, including the decision to deny help.
Absolutely. And this links directly to the duty to arrange advocacy. If an adult would have, and the term is substantial difficulty engaging in the safeguarding process, then the duty to arrange independent advocacy is triggered.
So that ensures they still have a voice, even if their capacity to participate is compromised.
It's a key measure to make sure empowerment is always upheld.
Okay, when the pressure is on, you need a clear path. Let's talk about the stepwise framework, your first, next, last guide, which is what really demonstrates that systematic thinking.
Let's break down the sequence.
First step, step 1, stabilize and assess immediate risk. This has to be rapid. Is it a medical emergency? Is a crime being committed? If the bruising in our scenario looked severe, you'd be calling for emergency services. And preserving evidence.
Yes. Then you move to the balancing act, the next steps. Steps 2 and 3 are about applying MSP and checking capacity. You have to try and see that adult alone.
And in our scenario, the partner is blocking that. So you have to find a professional way to secure that privacy.
You must. And once you're alone with them, you assess their wishes and their capacity. Do they consent to you sharing this suspicion with safeguarding services?
Which leads right to the information sharing dilemma. If they have capacity and say no, what's your next move?
You move to step 3. Share the minimum necessary information and justify it. You have to recognize that your duty to protect can override confidentiality when you're trying to prevent serious harm.
The key word there is can. It's not automatic.
No, and the key is proportionality. You share the minimum necessary on a need-to-know basis, and you record your clear rationale for sharing it, especially if it's without consent.
And then finally, the last steps.
Steps 4 and 5. Refer and document. If the Section 42 criteria are met, you formally refer or consult. Then you partner with other agencies, you set roles and timelines, and you document everything.
Okay, to help organize all that, there's a memory aid, isn't there? The safeguard mnemonic.
A simple one, yes. It helps synthesize the actions into a checklist.
Let's run through it.
So S is for see risk, identify the potential abuse.
A is for ask outcomes. That's your MSP. What does the adult want?
F for fact find. Assess, check capacity, try to see them alone. E is for escalate or refer. That's your Section 42 consultation.
G for gain consent or justify the share.
U for urgent measures. That's your step 1, the stabilization, calling the police.
And then A for adult's wishes, R for record, and D for duty to review.
Notice how U for urgent is actually your first step, while E for escalate is step 4. It shows that stabilization always comes before the formal process.
Right. Let's switch gears a bit and talk about the absolute red flags, the patterns that demand instant action, where you almost have to override that empowerment principle.
Well, the first one is imminent or serious harm or evidence of a crime. That's a 999 call, no question. And crucially, if you see coercive control, like the partner blocking the conversation, you must find a way to see the adult alone. That's a non-negotiable.
Another one is high-risk domestic abuse.
Yes. If you suspect that, you need to use the DEJE's risk checklist. That's for domestic abuse, stalking, and honor-based violence. If the score is high, you have to consider a MARAC referral.
And MARAC, just to remind people, is the Multi-Agency Risk Assessment Conference. It's a formal meeting where all the agencies coordinate a safety plan for high-risk cases.
You cannot tackle high risk alone. And finally, self-neglect with life safety hazards. So severe hoarding creating a fire risk. That often warrants a multi-agency plan and a Section 42 inquiry.
This brings us back to that huge ethical dilemma. Confidentiality versus protection. If the patient has capacity and says, don't share this, but you suspect serious risk, what's the legal justification for overriding them?
It's a classic conflict of duties. But the law is clear. Professional guidance says you must share information without consent if it's necessary to prevent serious harm. You're relying on public interest or vital interest overriding the common law duty of confidentiality.
So the critical thing isn't getting consent, it's sticking to proportionality.
Yes, share the minimum necessary on a need-to-know basis. And the most crucial step, the one that professionally defends your decision, is to record your justification for doing it, clearly in the notes.
Which leads us perfectly into the trap answers, the low-scoring options the exam uses to tempt you.
And they almost always involve either delay or overreach. For instance, a very tempting wrong answer is wait for proof before acting or monitor the situation.
Oh, that's a classic one. And it tanks your score because safeguarding duties are triggered by risk, not by certainty. Delay breaches that duty to inquire.
Exactly. Another trap is refuse to share due to confidentiality. That just misstates the law. It puts secrecy above safety, which is never acceptable when you suspect serious harm.
What about the other extreme?
Overshare widely just in case to the whole team. That's disproportionate. It breaches the minimum necessary rule. And of course, ignore the adult's wishes and immediately arrange a care package just fails the making safeguarding personal principle completely.
So the golden rule is clear. Proportionate, person-led protection with lawful, minimal information sharing. That beats delay or blanket disclosure every time.
Let's lock in some rapid-fire patterns now, some quick rules of thumb.
Okay. If you encounter coercive control,
See the adult alone first. That's your immediate professional priority.
if you identify high-risk domestic abuse,
Use the DS checklist and consider a MARAC referral. High risk needs multi-agency action.
if serious harm is imminent,
Contact emergency services or police immediately and preserve any evidence.
and if self-neglect is present,
Apply the CARE Act guidance. That means a multi-agency plan, and you have to consider Section 42 if their needs are causing that inability to protect themselves from, say, a fire hazard.
beyond the actions, the language you use really matters. What are some model phrases that capture that MSP spirit?
For that initial engagement, something open and non-judgmental. Are you safe to talk now? What would you like to happen next? Maybe offer an advocate to support them.
And if you do have to breach confidentiality,
Be transparent. Because I am worried about serious harm, I need to share some limited, necessary information with the safeguarding team so we can keep you safe. I'll record exactly what I share and why I'm sharing it.
that one phrase just captures everything. The duty, the proportionality, and the accountability.
It does, and on accountability, we just can't overstate the importance of documentation. An accurate, contemporaneous note of who you spoke to, what was decided, why you shared information. It's not just paperwork, it's your professional defense.
We've covered a huge amount of ground today. The legal anchor in the CARE Act, the Section 42 criteria, the person-led approach with MSP.
And the stepwise framework, the traps, and those critical rules around lawful information sharing.
So what are the key takeaways?
I'd say 3 things. 1, safety first. You act on risk, not certainty, to get the ball rolling.
Okay.
2, MSP is mandatory. Your action must be person-led, capacity-aware, and advocacy-enabled. And 3, share minimally on a need-to-know basis, and always, always document your rationale for sharing.
You know, the core tension in adult safeguarding isn't just if you should act, but how you act. Knowing those Section 42 criteria helps you distinguish between managing risk for the person and empowering them in the process.
It's about proportionate protection that respects autonomy, even when that autonomy makes your job harder. That is the foundation of high-scoring, GMC-aligned practice.
Absolutely. And if you are preparing for this really crucial area, remember to check out the detailed resources available at passthemsra.com for more practice scenarios and ethical breakdowns.
The decision to involve safeguarding is easy when someone asks for help. The real professional test is when they deny the need, and you're left weighing the evidence against their wishes. That is where knowing about proportionality really saves the day.